financial crisis, a study by Boston Consulting Group has actually alluded that almost 320 billion US dollars have been paid in fines by a lot of global banks, minus the banks in the emerging markets. And that is the scale of the issues and concerns. Now, the next question we ask ourselves is whether or not putting in place a proper standards would help. To be fair to regulators, I think since the crisis, a number of Basel Accord have been put in place. But those are merely meant to strengthen the institutional capacity. It is meant to strengthen the capital raise. It's meant to ensure that the liquidity standards are being assured in some of these markets. But the sad thing is that not a lot of banks in the world will be able to fulfill the stringent requirements. Even in the Asian region where I come from, I can confirm that less than 10 banks that would have satisfied the requirement of the Basel III because of the huge capital requirements, and that is a big cost to the institutions. And not a lot of banks, smaller banks, which explains why a lot of national governments are encouraging consolidation and mergers. But because many of these banks are family-owned institutions, it takes a longer time for these banks to consolidate and to merge into a larger entity so that to build its capacity. The financial reporting standards, particularly the IFRS 9 recently, that requires banks to raise the expected loss so that the impairment will be less, and that itself. But banks find it very difficult, and they're very reluctant even to push this unless the regulators tells them to. So it is a very regulator-driven institutions. The question I want to ask the audience is that there are three fundamental problems we have here. First one is that, when you talk about banks here, it's about individual versus institutions. Unlike in other professions, a doctor's found of misconduct will be penalized and probably be out of job after the disciplinary panel has found him guilty of malpractice. Same for lawyers, same for accountants. You have seen that even to the demise of Arthur Andersen, where a number of the partners, will have to give up their license. But not in banks. The banks get fined, but individuals get scot-free. That's one. The second one we have is a big issue affecting all of you. It is about flexibility versus compliance. When we talk about customer services, all of us want to be flexible. We want to meet the SME needs. We want to tailor needs. Have you ever heard that the bankers often take away the umbrella when it rains? The banks claim that they don't. They say that the umbrella will always be there. But let me assure you, business are business, banks are business entities. When it comes to business, it is about dollar and cents. It is not about who you know, whom you know, and how you know. It is about, if that is the case, then we talk about real business, because the shareholders will demand ever increasing bottom line delivery. The third one, which I would ask you all to consider, is whether or not are we moving towards a convergence of standards or a divergence of standards? Simply because the banks is not a homogeneous entity. We have to agree that banks itself contain lots of very different entities in the organization. It is not the same. For example, if you hire a compliance officer, he's obviously not a banker. He is a regulator and a compliance. And the word compliance means follow the rules. A banker is not a compliance officer. A banker is the one who goes down to the heartbeat of the bank, which is to lend other people's money to make more money. That's his business. It is a legitimate business, and it is not a business that is not bona fide. So we all have to accept that. So those are the challenges we have. And I struggle with these papers when it comes to defining the standards. So to overcome this, we have to ensure that one, if the banks believe moving towards a common standards for regulatory purposes, then we have to make sure that homogeneity in terms of cross standards are being put in place. That is the first challenge here. Second, bankers themselves would then have to agree to a set of common rules affecting their individual conducts. Minus Nigeria bankers, the rest of the world, they have to comply to easily a 35 hours of CPD. They have to swear and read out their oath, that they will be abiding by the rules and swear to their God that they will not cheat and shortchange their customers. And then the third one is really we have to ask ourselves, are we in the right position to ensure institutions as private sector enterprise would be made to converge these rules?